said it's only illegal to follow people to their home. So you can just follow them around wherever you want.
In a public place.
Yeah.
In a public place.
Okay. How much they pay you to do this, man?
I get a salary.
Huh?
I just get salary.
You get salary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. At least you're you know, you got a conscience. At least you're being convicted for what you're doing. You know it's not right, man. You know it's not right.
First time I get locked up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, like gang stuff, you know what I'm saying? This gang, you have to have 2, 3 people, right?
Right.
I'm a loner.
No, I don't believe that. You're not a loner.
I'm a loner.
No, I don't believe that. You're not a loner. You're not a loner, man. Turn on you eventually, right? You know they're listening to everything you do. They got your phones bugged. They're tracking you. They're gonna turn on you eventually, set you up for some kind of crime.
They already have.
Okay. Well, you need to seek Jesus, man. He's the only way.
Hear what this guy has to say. I was just looking up interviews of people that had schizophrenia like back in the day. Some of the things they say sounds a lot like what the targeted individuals have to say, but from a lot of the research I've been doing and, things that have been coming out, like on Look Out for Charlie's channel with the SWAT rat machine he made, that he's able to pick up on these voices that they're actually machine generated and connected to a system, a wiring system. It just makes you wonder, like, these people back in the day that had schizophrenia and, all these cases, were they really just being targeted? And I believe so, and that they were trying to put this whole spin off all these years of that it's a mental illness and that it's all to get you thrown into the mental hospitals and get you on their drugs. But hear what this guy has to say and tell me it doesn't sound like the targeting. And he even calls it organization and stuff like that.
People around you are disguised as patients or acting as patients.
Yes, well,
it means, of course, that a tremendous number of people and a tremendous amount of energy must be being expended.
And this bothers me, yes.
In this program for your benefit.
You said program.
Well, this is where, this is the point where I have conflict, of course, but at the same time I have to think of myself. I have only one life, and therefore I can't think too much about the other part. I absolutely can't, otherwise I can't. I have to know it, but just don't attach any emotion to it.
This is self-preservation.
That's all it is.
Do you feel then that the object or the result of all this might be your destruction?
Mm-hmm.
This is the goal or aim of all this activity?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. How do they communicate with you?
They were or are my friends, most of them.
Hear that? He said they were are his friends, most of them.
Friends is sort of a strange word to use for people that you believe are actively engaged in your destruction.
Mm-hmm. I need somebody.
And what of these friends? How did they see his breaking down? This is his friend and employer.
It was apparent that he was not feeling very well. Physically, he seemed to be failing slightly. And in addition, when I started to talk to him on a personal basis, it turned out that he had a feeling of persecution. He referred to they. They were after him. They were going to change him. And he had a great fear of this. I endeavored to allay his fears, but it didn't seem to do much good.
This is his best friend of 20 years standing.
He became hypersensitive to any suggestion, any hint, any way in which he could find a relationship between what you might say to him and something about himself. He would latch on a.
It makes you wonder if this guy was being gang stalked back in the day. These guys look like, business people or that was the dress of the day, but that means these people are down to destroy him and put this whole spin-off to that he's just losing his mind, and it's just kind of sick. But it really makes you wonder, it really makes you wonder.
He was just looking for things. It wasn't a question of accepting it. He was actually physically all emotionally set to receive any kind of suggestion that anything might at all be related to him in any way. Even the color of your eyes, the color of your shoe, it doesn't matter what it was. Anything at all that could be related to him, he did it.
This is another close friend.
He stayed home from work, and he just wouldn't go out. And one evening in June, he phoned me and told me that he was just petrified, and you could tell by his voice that he was terrified of, I don't quite know what, but something was bothering him terribly. He wouldn't even go out. He said he was even afraid to put his head outside the door, that they were out to get him, this network of people. They were going by the front door
The network of
in
people.
cars and this type of thing.
Now to meet his mother.
My daughter and her husband, they came down. I wrote and I told them that Jack was certainly a sick boy and he needed help, but I said, I'm at a loss to know what to do. I can't press him too much, because I think even me talking to him, I said, Jack, you need help. I said...
This is like the 50s. Imagine, like, the family and the friends sold them out, and, like, this was when the microwave technology and the ELFs and all of the frequency technologies were... They're probably, like, first experimenting, and, like, he was one of the first test subjects or something. It's sick to think about.
Just seemed to upset him, and he'd kind of go against... I think he would go against me. So they came down. So then they settled down, and Marion said, listen, you've got to see a doctor. He wasn't going to see him. Now, I don't know what he said. I couldn't say what he said to them or what the conversation was between them. Anyhow, Marion came into the bedroom. It was after 1, and she said...
I noticed she's doing the Mason hand sign right there. So could this just be a controlled story? Like, are they in on it, and then even the schizophrenic guy in on it, and they're trying to make what targeted individuals sound like schizophrenia? Because, like, imagine that's when it started, right? And people were going to start saying, you know, that these things were happening. So they imagine this was just a story they had to put out there to control the narrative. And what if the guy that they're claiming here that had the schizophrenia, what if he's in on it too, you know, and it's just all for, you know, the TV. You see them do their hand signs, you know, but it really would be to control the narrative in that sense too.
He's finally consented. He'll speak to a doctor, but he's never going to stay in one of those places.
Same kind of signals in the same frequency range can affect human mood. The human brain operates on very low frequencies. For example, when we're thinking, actively, we're generating about 13, 14 cycles per second. When we're meditating, we're generating 8 cycles per second. And when we're asleep, the brain waves are running at about 4 cycles per second.
And that is when you begin to pick up what I refer to as psychic entrainment, which used to be called psychic driving in the past. The lower you get, you will begin to pick this up. The lower the brain waves, the easier it is for someone to hear. You feel somebody full of sensitizers, the same things that make everything conductive in the air. You fill them full of that kind of crap, and they are going to be extra sensitive to this. So then all you have to do is stress them out, get their brain waves down so they're exhausted at the same time and awake. And they will begin to hear the same things when they are awake. Unfortunately, it's all negative when they begin to hear this stuff.
And HAARP is capable of generating all of these frequencies. These kinds of signals can control the human brain. And if you can control these frequencies and multiples of these frequencies in various combinations, you can control all kinds of emotions. You can generate happiness. You could generate sadness. You can generate any mood you want.
In essence, you have to think about this. You could have some excellent frequencies in a mall, at a fun park. I was so happy there. And then you get home and you're all depressed and down and out. You see how weaponized this can be? It's pretty intense. Another thing is vision, and people have been bringing this up a lot lately. Now, I used to get into this quite a bit. I don't get into it so much anymore. But ELF can cause snow in the vision. It can cause waves and vibrations in the vision. And it can cause shadows in the vision. Now, when you've been at this for long enough, eventually you can learn to control those shadows, shape them, do other things. So eventually, two people or more could see a shadow person or whatever they want you to see go by that isn't really there. So it wasn't a hologram. It was ELF affecting your eyes and your brain.
You are immersed in ELF.
What I will do, though, is take this opportunity to distinguish really quickly between the larger phenomenon of TIs that is usually a person in America that's being targeted by the technology and is being gang-stalked by members of their community. Just very much in the open within SIS and with some of the liaison contacts that I had with DESC, Amazon, and then also members of the military that are in a civilian capacity. One thing you have to understand is that within the security business, most of the people working there are ex-military and ex-intelligence operatives. And many of them, in fact, are still active intelligence operatives and have simply been reassigned to domestic duty to work with a private security company, specifically for the purposes of carrying out this highly illegal program that's being run against TIs all over America. So full-blown TIs, what I would call people that are getting the voice-to-skull, the frequency, and the organized stalking, I have heard is between 1 and 2 million, and that could be completely off. But one of the things I'm concerned about is the technology as it's being researched and developed in Seattle utilizes emotion manipulation and behavior manipulation without the gang stalking and without the voice-to-skull aspects. And so this use of the technology can be done very covertly to the point where the person it's being used against will not know that this technology is being used against them. And that is one of my main concerns and one of the reasons why I want to bring more light to this technology and to this issue, because this technology could potentially be being used against tens to hundreds of millions of Americans every day. I've mentioned in some of my podcasts how there are field effects where they will not direct this technology at an individual, but create a general field of frequency in a geographical area so that everybody that within that geographical area is feeling the effects of the technology. It's more of a general application of the technology instead of an individual specific application of the technology. But when you consider that use of it and the fact that it is used for emotion and thought and behavior modification, then we could potentially be looking at many, many millions of people across the country that are under the influence of the technology